So we look in the mirror and we think, oh man, I could be so quick to judge. Why do I judge? What's inside of me when I judge others? What's inside of somebody else when they judge me? You know what I'm saying? There's lots of ways to get things said. I found through the years about different ways to present concepts and ideas. You all know when I do Holy Unions, I write a story, right? Mm-hmm. You know, these two girls gave me a crab and a purple rose. Oh, no. I'm thinking, you know, maybe I ought to drop this thing that I do. I'm going to crab and a purple rose. So I started the usual, that there was heaven and earth was created by God, it was covered by water, and it was good. And then God separated the waters from the sand and the mountains, and at the rise from the water, there was the mountains, and there was land that gave texture to the world. And it wasn't long after that that the seas were filled, and the vegetation grew wildly all over the place. Then there was this crab. This crab that was given its own protection. Now, this crab could take care of itself. Had pinchers, had spines, but he couldn't get out of the water. So this crab comes along the beach and finally realizes that it takes a lot more to walk on the sand than it does in the water. And as this crab looks around, crab sees this flower that the crab didn't know what color it was. So the crab asked, what is that? And they said, well, that is a purple rose. They fell in love. Everyone in the forest was saying, a crab is supposed to be with the crab, and a rose is supposed to be with the rose bush, get it? It was a nice, palatable way to tell the story without hurting moms. And God says, I see upon this crab and upon this rose the love they have for one another. I can see that love. That was the love of my son. And so I want a blessed wedding because their love will multiply. It will multiply and it will get larger and larger and larger. And all of a sudden, because that love, if you look at a crab today, they're not orange. But a crab comes from the bottom with the purple on the top of it. That was their story. That was their love story. That's what we're about. You know, come on, we're about romance and love stories. We wanted to do that. True? But it was kind of hard in this world because all of a sudden, here we come out of this world, and let me tell you, they don't give you rules. You know, how do we do relationships when we've only seen one role model and it was heterosexual? We spend a lot of time trying to work out our gender and our role in that love. Amen? Mm-hmm. In that love, we have to figure things out. You know, different cultures have been different things in our community. I saw a 100-year-old lesbian on TV talk about what it was like. Always dressed as a man, always wore suits. Always considered herself as the male in the relationship. Same, see that documentation back in the 20s and 30s, and the female dressed more feminine. You know, then we go through all these cultural shifts and changes, and I'm here to tell you, some of the things we're lifting up are not so good. It is not okay to say that the only thing is cute is someone who's young with very little hair for the male community. We need to confront that ageism because it's going to make us sick. Same thing with the women. When we come together, we have a tendency to lose who we are. For a while. Sometimes we have to get some help to get out of that enmeshment. You know, we want to nest. We like to nest. It's spring. I start seeing people shift. You know, with a man, you know, it's just different. Believe me, I know this. Because I lived in two worlds now. I lived with a culture that gave me everything as a woman to grow up. You can excel, but not too far. You know, if you get a man, don't get a loser. Get a man that'll make sure you have insurance or anything else you might cost. Privilege. That's what I was taught. Now I walk into a world and I go, man, you guys got everything handed to you on a silver platter. Go out. Crusade, do what you want to do. Travel. You know? Go out and everything can be open. You can have a business and $2.5 million motorhome. And I'm going, boy, that sure is different. Even in the littlest things, I'm learning things. When I used to go to Golden Corral, as Gina, they gave me a steak about that big. Now if I walk up there and say I'll have a steak, they fill half my plate. Little things. Yep. If Irene gets the groceries, they're not packed so heavy. If I get the groceries, 95 pounds in a double sack, that I'm going to have to lift up over there and in there. But you don't complain as a guy. You just, act like you can do it, even if you have to do it at home. There are little nuances that sometimes I feel stuck in a minute in my life. You see, I lived with women who could say really bad things about the personage or body of a male. And now I live where males are known to say naughty things about women. And I'm going, I don't like that on either side. It does make you kind of shift to live in the middle and to be new. But I had to look in the mirror. This is just a testimony. I had to look in the mirror. I said, I know I'm 55. But I've lived like everybody else for 55 years, but not me. So, I took the risk. Not knowing how y'all were going to do. Not knowing if you're going to birth the name. Not knowing how that was going to be. I didn't know. I just wanted it to be loving and kind, and I wanted to be centered in the middle where I never was before. Because standing up to that mirror and saying, I can't be anything else. I feel like I got put in the wrong place. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I was crab and I was self-contained. And the purple rose pulled me into who I am as a gift. I don't know. Jesus was intimate with his disciples and his friends. Think about it. They didn't have showers with pretty, pretty shower curtains. They didn't have them. So can you imagine feet in sandals day after day in dirt, what they look like? Think about it. And Jesus took those smelly feet that had been on all the roads they had walked, humbling himself, dropping to his knees. When the time last came, he became a humble servant, and he washed their feet. You know what I mean about if I say a wash the feet moment? You know what that is for me? When someone challenges me to really be who I say I am. And I go, oh Lord, this is one of those wash those feet moments. I need to get kicked down a notch or two. I need to humble myself and remember that I'm still a servant. Doesn't matter who I am, I'm still a servant. I still wash feet. I wash souls as best I can with people. When Jesus said, in the same way I loved you, love one another, he meant all of these things. A leprosy love, a leftovers love, a blind love, an unlikely love, a look in the mirror love, a smelly feet love, and much, much more. This is just 6 times that he did that. So, love is a choice. You can't command it in someone. It is a choice. And each day maybe we can say to the Lord, now let me see your people the way you see them. Lord, today let me see others as you see them. Let me look through my eyes, but see what you see in the child you've created. Let me see them the way that you do. What God did do, God gave us Christ. Why? Because God so loved us that God sent Christ. There was a man named Curtis. He was a stock boy in a grocery store. And he hadn't been with anybody. And he was getting a little older. but not too old. He was 22, but there was this 26-year-old woman that came to work, and he was smitten. He was smitten. And he started by saying, "Hi, Brenda," and being kind of kindly. And he so much wanted to take Brenda on a date, and so he said, "Well, I could give you a ride home tonight if you wouldn't mind." And Brenda said that would be okay, and so he took her home. Then he wanted to say, "Well, maybe next Saturday night you'd like to go out with me." And Brenda said, "I don't know. I have kids. I can't afford a babysitter." So Curtis says, "Let's take the kids with us." She tried to explain to him that taking the children was not an option. But again, Curtis wasn't going to take a no. Finally, Brenda brought him in to meet the children. She had an older daughter that was cute as a bug, and Curtis thought, And then Brenda brought out her son in a wheelchair. I still don't understand why the kids can't come with us. Brenda was amazed, because normally at that point, most men run away. You know, most men would run away to have to be the stepdad to a challenged kid. It's not your own. And so Brenda was ready for Curtis to walk out, and he didn't do it. He said, "Let's all go." They went for dinner, and they went to a movie. And anything that the son needed, Curtis picked the chair up, put it in, got the chair back out, anything he needed. And at the end of the evening, Brenda finally knew she had met her soulmate. The one, in fact, that was made for her. And that he could have loved her and does love her for who she is and her children too. Well, you know, they got married. And Curtis adopted both of her children. And since then, they have 5 more kids. So what happened to that stock boy and that checkout girl? Mr. and Mrs. Kurt Warner now live in Iowa, but not before they leading the St. Louis Rams and the Arizona Cardinals to Super Bowl victories. He has received all kinds of awards, has a deep faith, and believed the words of Jesus when he said, "Go forth and love as I have loved." Amen.
Amen.